Hi everyone, welcome to Fine Wine of the Old World. Today I'd like to talk to you about winemaking techniques. And so I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you drink responsibly. As you probably know, wine is a very old invention, and people in ancient times, they knew how to make wine. And what I think happened, people had their grapes, they stored their grapes, and then grapes started fermenting, and that gave them this intoxication, and they started associating wine with religion. So they obviously couldn't make sense of it, and they associated wine with some mystery and something magic. Now we know what's actually happening, so we know there is not much of the magic anymore, although I think the winemakers still make a lot of magic to make the wine that we enjoy drinking. And I am very happy that now we can see how the winemakers are trying to express themselves and how they try to make the wine pleasant, and also how they look after their vines. So I will show you my picture that I was actually drawing when I was trying to understand the winemaking techniques, and when I tried to understand why the red wine is different to the white wine and what are actual differences in the winemaking process. So I hope this drawing will help you. It's also on my Instagram, so if you want to see it for a bit longer, please go ahead and just find me on Instagram. And let's start. So when it comes to the wine, there are a lot of steps that are actually the same for the white wine and the red wine and the rosé. But I'm here to tell you about those differences. So let's start with the white wine. Let's start with the crushing. So when you think of the wine, you always probably have in your head this, this barrel that people go into, and then they trample the grapes. And that's actually still happening in the small scale productions. But normally now in the large scale production, there would be devices that are used particularly for crushing, and also the stemming. Then the next step would be pressing, and pressing is done in order to retrieve the remaining grape juice. And if you haven't done it, you would probably even lose around 30% of that juice. So you know now why the pressing is done. Next step would be the fermentation. So that's our magic. So that's our yeast, that they work really hard for us to enjoy our drink. So what happens, normally there are selected yeast that are more predictable, so you kind of know what they can enhance. And as I mentioned, the wild yeast could sometimes make our wine vinegarish, so that's not really desired by most of the people. Although I might be wrong, but yes, so that's about the fermentation. Normally it goes in the stainless steel tanks or in the oak barrels. When it comes to the whites, you would normally have them in the stainless steel tanks, but wines, for example Chardonnay, would sometimes be put into the oak barrel, and that would be a full body white. Then we also have maturation. So maturation would be anything from the end of fermentation to the bottling process. So anything between those two would be part of maturation process. So it could be either the malolactic fermentation, so malic acid that is present in apples would be converted into the lactic acid, which is in milk, so it's a bit smoother, if I can say. And so imagine having Chardonnay, fresh and crisp. You would like to retain this malic acid to make it fresh wine. But on the other hand, if you have the Chardonnay that you put in the oak, you would probably want to have this malolactic fermentation to make it a little bit more approachable. You also get the filtration and clarification, and that is in order to stabilize our wine. So you don't want to have any microorganisms that could potentially make our wine rotten. And that's why also you would make the filtration to have it clear and to remove the large particle, as well for the aesthetical effect. Because imagine if you had this wine and you would see just bits in it, probably you would be like, no, so sorry, but no. So that's about the maturation process. What is important here as well is sulfate. So probably 99% of our wine would have sulfate, and a lot of people would say, oh no, but it gives me headaches and so on. But it is very important in order to prevent the wine from spoilage. And also just imagine you having the dried fruit, like dried prunes, and they would also have this sulfate in it, and way more sulfate that is present in the wine. Then we have our bottling process, so the wine is getting closer to us. So then what happens, sorry, I didn't realize I still have some leftovers. So normally the bottling process is to make the wine to go to the market, and also seal it from the environment. So very often the screw cap is used, or the cork. Let's talk about rosé now. So when it comes to the rosé, it's made of the black grapes. That would be our wavy line, and there would be crushing. Then there would be fermentation, so that fermentation for a couple of hours with the skins, so you can extract the color into the wine, and also you get a little bit of tannins. That's why if you probably know tannins are my weakness, so if I had to drink something lighter in the summer, I would probably go for a rosé, because you can still get this little bit nice impression on your tongue. Okay, and then we go for draining. So we again remove the additional juice. We try to keep as much as possible, and then we have again fermentation. So now we can finish the fermentation process, and now it's just the juice. So no more tannins extracted in the wine. Maturation process of the rosé would normally be done in the stainless tanks, and very rarely you would find the wine put in oak, because normally winemakers want to make it fresh and crisp. And then you get bottling. When it comes to the black grapes, we would start again with our crushing, then we go with the fermentation. And remember, with the black grapes, we would normally try to expose them to lactobacteria, because we would like to have this malic acid going into the lactic acid. So that's the difference. And then also that's good to remember that we have, after our fermentation, we drain, we press, and then we do the maturation. Probably in case of the fuller body reds, we would have them in the oak barrels, and very light reds we would have in the stainless steel tanks. And again, our bottling process. Very briefly, I just want to make you aware of the orange wine. This is also one of my favorite, because it has tannins. So the orange wine is made the way that the red wine is made, but very often is a natural wine that is made in a enclave and all ferments all together. And the color and the tannins are normally extracted from the seeds, and that's why it has this orange color. So that's our orange wine, and remember, it is not made of oranges. And then we have the sparkling wine. Again, it is something different, and for example, when you think of the traditional method, so our champagne, for example, or cava, you would get the second fermentation that would be done in the bottle, and that would mean that we need to add some extra sugar in order to trap the bubbles in the bottle. You also get the natural wines. So I told you, for example, in the Georgian Kvevri, these wines would normally be, as the name indicates, natural. So natural yeast, natural fermentation, and also no filtration. So these wines very often would have some bits floating in the wine. And then the last one that I wanted to mention is the fortified wine, and that wine is made in a way that during the fermentation process, the fermentation is actually stopped by pouring alcohol into the mixture. So just to make you aware, after 15% of alcohol, the yeast die and they cannot consume sugar anymore, and therefore you can't go over 15% of alcohol. So that means that with the fortified wines you can get even 20% of alcohol, but it's because this alcohol is added by the winemakers. I think this is it for today. After this video, I'm just going to enjoy a little bit more of wine, especially that I told you I have some left in the bottle. So yeah, I hope you have a nice day, a nice evening, a nice glass of wine. Today I actually have the Portuguese wine, so it's not fortified wine, but it's fantastic, and it's Touriga Nacional. So yeah, very nice Greek variety. And yeah, so that's it for today. I hope I see you soon. Bye.